Eddie Troxler here. This is our second episode of Jazz Chat. I have my friend, partner in crime, Eric Clough, with me. We were in a band together for quite a few years, and we still do a lot of gigs here and there together, not as much as we used to. But what I do here, I have you choose a public domain song, and we play through it, and we kind of go over it a little bit, what we do. So we're gonna play the tune, and then we'll do some chatting about it. Last four, right?
Sure.
Two. All right, that was Sweet Georgia Brown. That was written, I don't know when it was written exactly.
It was an old one, yeah, I don't know.
But it was written before. I always search these songs to make sure they're public domain, so it was written prior to 1929. So Eric Clough here. You, like me, you were an educated musician, and then when we started playing a lot, we kind of had to unlearn a lot.
Right?
It seems to me.
Someone once told me that Berkeley did more harm to musicians than heroin. But I don't know. I mean, I learned a ton there. I learned a lot about how to learn, mainly. More than about music, but just how to learn, and from the people that were dedicated to practicing. And yeah, it was a great experience for me.
Same here, and I think for me, I was around people who are more serious about it.
Right.
If your roommate's practicing, it's 8-9 hours a day, then
Exactly.
you don't want to go behind.
That was mainly it. I went there right out of high school, and so I was just like blown away at the dedication I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, that for me too. I always felt right at home there. But I went, unlike you, I went when I was in my 30s. I went there, so I probably more focused on what I wanted to do, I hope, but because I'd already done the whole partying thing, much earlier. So I knew I was there for music, and I know it's always it always comes up on these blogs and stuff that people play it by ear, they're much better. But for me, and like I said last week, I was with Paul Luria, who reads, but he plays more by ear.
Sure.
But I tell my students too, don't lose that ability to just play. But for me, a lot of my good paying gigs are
Reading.
because I can read.
Yeah.
Like when I get pit band work, that's like doing theater work. It's a union scale. And it's not necessarily that fun to play, but it's still better than working some job I dislike.
Yeah.
And like I just got a wedding, and they want a Taylor Swift song. And I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, but it's not that difficult to play, and it's a lot. I think it's a shortcut to just pull the sheet off and read it rather than have to learn the whole thing by ear.
Yeah, it's a bit of a crutch. I still kind of rely on it for most tunes. Playing in a jazz band, you have to have kind of a repertoire of like hundreds of songs. You got 300 songs that you could pull from, and so for me, it's just easier to have it there as a just in case. We can play Summertime, and I'm going to know the changes, so it's not like I have to have it there. But it all depends on what tunes are being called.
Yeah, that's true. And some people, they seem to never bring any music, and they just. But I think, like I mentioned last week, it's kind of like the way you process the information, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like, most people don't even remember phone books, but
Right.
say if you were illiterate, you had no way of reading, and you would have to memorize all those numbers. But we never bother because you can look them up. I mean, why memorize something you could look up? So
Kind of like phone numbers now with cell phones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no reason to memorize them. So this thing with music, if you don't have any other way of keeping it in your head, we can always pull. We used to all use the real book. It's all iPads now, but most of those tunes, and then as you play a lot, you find that a lot of them are really similar. We were discussing this Sweet Georgia Brown earlier, and I was saying, well, the key signature says A flat, but it's not. It's not really. I mean, if like the book I wrote, the first book I wrote, the Blues Rock to Bach, one of the earlier things it talks about are chords within a key. So if we're in the key of A flat, it's always going to go major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, then diminished back to the root. Or it's even with two notes, you would go. So right off the bat, that first chord, the F7, has an A natural in it. If you analyze it, that really doesn't work. But what I was telling Eric, I kind of think of it as a blues, so that in guitar players we mostly think in patterns.
Sure.
Probably with bass too, right? We have that F, and then we're going to that B flat. So that's like a 1-4 progression. And I'm thinking this, and the same as the melody, that's that D minor pentatonic that. So that's kind of what I think about for the first part. But then you kind of got to change it when you get to these turnarounds and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just pretty much this tune. It's a matter of listening. And I play different with Eric than last week I was playing with Paul. So if I were playing this with Paul, he was playing a tenor ukulele and he was singing some. So if I were playing with Paul, I would probably be grabbing some of those bass lines, But when I have a bass player, I don't need to be doing that, And we don't have a drummer, obviously, but Eric's kind of playing percussion as well as playing bass.
Yeah.
I think the first time I heard, started listening to those Django Reinhardt style stuff, it would sound like they had a drummer, but they generally don't.
Yeah.
It sounds like almost like they got brushes because of their style.
And even with the drummer, I think it's super important for the bass to kind of be right there with the drummer or be that rhythm.
Yeah, you're
be
locked
that rhythm
in. You're locked into the downbeats, whereas I'm more on that second and fourth beat. Yeah, I think that's one thing that kind of helped me, and plus it swings. If you don't know what swing is, it's if you think about eighth notes. Eighth notes are generally da 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 da. But if you think about triplets, da 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 da, cross out the middle of each one, and that's what swing is. That's what I was always taught, right? Yeah. So instead of you'll hear blues players, they'll go like they're playing the triplets, and then they switch over to crossing out the middle one there. But so anyway, as far as playing bass on this, are you thinking more the chords that are going by, or the walk in between them? Or you just play it a bunch of times?
It's such a traditional tune that I kind of just walk it like it's was originally done or whatever, and just outline the chords in a very traditional way. But thinking about it the way it goes, I always saw it as like the way it goes from F to B flat to E flat, like it's fourths straight across for me, resolving eventually to the A flat.
Yeah, that makes sense. Eric was saying the circle of fifths backwards, right? Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Or the cycle of fourths, I would call it. You can just look at that circle going the other direction. Not
like a traditional resolution, but it works great.
And really, these we call them lead sheets. It would be quite boring, I think, to just play what's written. And if you listen to Django and people like that, there's tons of people who cover this song. They're playing a lot more than what's there. And even just doubling up some of the notes kind of adds some.
Those grace notes in between that make it swing. Yeah.
And then you add these little like. And then the turnaround, da, ba, da, da, da. So they're accents and embellishments is what you're doing, and listening to a lot of different versions. And if you can't play it in a bunch of different keys, then it kind of forces you to really get that melody and the chord progression in your head.
What I think about when doing it with the band, a lot of times is the kind of dynamics, because it's a fairly simple song, and so it can be a little overly, aggressive if you don't bring it down at the right times and kind of like modulate the dynamics to make it have a little bit of something to look forward to or whatever.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And then with Jazz Depot, if you want to plug that, right? You got some gigs coming up, and they do some open jam locally. You're doing the thing at the Boulder still?
Yep. Second Thursday of every month, we're doing an open jam at the Boulder Cafe here in Fitchburg, right near the Boulder. It's a great welcoming jam. We pretty much will play whatever you want to request, and we'd love to have you. It's a great fun thing. Beside that, we play down the Bull Run one Saturday a month, and that always changes. But that's been going on for over 12, almost 15 years now, I think.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a good way to meet other people, and you learn to play with other people. Because like I said earlier, like maybe sometimes they would get, when we used to do the thing at, there used to be a martini bar here.
Distare, yeah.
So when you have like a bunch of people, usually the horn players might play we call it the head. That's the melody up front. I'm gonna play quite different if I have keyboards, bass, and to comp should mean, we hope, to complement the soloist or to complement the singer. We have a drummer that likes to sing this song. He couldn't make it. Where is he?
He's staying, or he's working. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, he's helping a friend.
Oh, good. Yeah. But I'll try to get him on sometime, and he can talk about how he approaches, because he was one of those people. His parents both played jazz, and he just kind of grew up around it.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think I know that one, and it's just kind of in his head, doesn't read music or anything. So he approaches it different, but we're able to collaborate with different people from different parts, different genres or whatever. If I'm playing a rock and roll band, I would play different than if I'm playing in a country band or if I'm playing in a jazz band. But jazz, it seems to be more the more direct approach to creativity to me. We probably never play it the same twice. I don't.
Yeah.
And I always see these people posting these pictures of chords for certain songs. But, if you watch people play, they don't really play those. It's not any certain shapes. You're not going to look them up in the Mel Bay book or something. So I say learn to build these chords yourself. Learn the inversions of the triads and the drop twos. Like, for example, that F, the first chord says F7. If you think about it, we need an F, an A, a C, and an E flat. So I could think, A, C, and E flat, because Eric's playing the F. So I could think about those triads, or I can just kind of run through since I practiced those, I can play some of those. Like, if he's playing the bass, I might do that. But if that particular shape is the same as this, and I just move that note to the low string. So if I need more high, and that's I'll when I get this website up, I promise I'm gonna get it up. Eric's gonna help me. Those inversions of seventh chords. So it's that, and all I'm thinking is root, third, fifth, seventh. So those shapes are that which comes from that cowboy shape that we already know, right? Or most of you do. So I'm just doing the high four strings, which is mostly what I use for comping. I go from there to there. So. And if you think about, I'm a big Django fan, Gypsy Jet. He only had to use 2 fingers anyway. So
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he kind of had use of 3, but it was kind of fused together. You look up pictures of his hands like this, he plays everything like this, And sometimes he could bar, and I don't think he could use those much, but you can watch it. It sounds like he's got 10 fingers, So I guess he kind of came up with some of the voicings, but also those days that a lot of that was because they didn't really have electric guitars until more toward the end of his career. He started using electric guitars, but a lot of times they were just trying to get
volume.
Yeah, would be up there with the rest of the orchestra, whoever they were playing with, and I think they were kind of one of the first ones out of Europe that was doing jazz, or one of the earlier types. There was jazz in the U.S., but and then in this country, if you listen to like Charlie Christian, who was with Benny Goodman and those guys, he kind of had that kind of style. Or Freddie Green was with Count Basie's orchestra, but it evolved. I think as we got more electric, we didn't really have to do as much of that chunking,
Yeah.
But it's still cool to me,
Sure.
But anyway, do we want to? You think we should play another one, or you want to play that one again, or do you have anything to add about what would help our viewers a little bit on if they're getting into the jazz? If people like me, I kind of started out doing classic rock and blues and stuff like that, but I kind of got more into jazz. I was exposed to it. My father was a lot older than me. I had a double generation gap. So my father was 44 when I was born. So he had all these old Benny Goodman's, Duke Ellington records, and I would go through them and listen to them. And then my mom, she was a bit younger, but she turned us on to Beatles and stuff. So that's kind of what I grew up listening to. And then my mother also listened to, Frank Sinatra and those guys. So I was exposed to a lot of it. But on my own, I think every generation of young people seems to want to have a style of music that kind of separates them from the previous generation. I mean, we were listening to Kiss and Led Zeppelin, and
Sure.
our father was like, "That's noise, that's not music." But it was good. It was quality music. I think the era of classic rock, been 1978 when I graduated high school, or supposed to, yeah, is like like the Eagles, Led Zeppelin, Steve Miller, all those bands were really big. But I think the reason people still hear those bands, it was good quality. There's nice melodies, there's nice harmonies, and that's why it kind of stayed around. So I'm glad I was exposed to a lot of different styles of decent quality music.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I know it could be debatable what's good quality music, but anyway, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Not really. I mean, I was, same story. I had, an upbringing on classic rock pretty much. But, I think going to school helped me get into jazz more and understand what was going on. And once I understood what was going on, it made it much more interesting, and I wanted to know more about it. And so I started to listen to more of it. A lot of my friends were into it, and so that helped a lot. But for me to learn to play it, it took more of being like dropped into a situation where everyone was better than me. And I had to, because it was just embarrassing not to keep up, And so that's, I made leaps and strides forward when once I was in like a group of people that were playing regularly, And that's the most important thing.
That's good, because when I was at Berkeley, I was kind of intimidated by the real jazz players.
Yeah.
I was like, they're bebop players that were,
Oh, yeah.
they were really famous all over the world. Berkeley would hire them, so they didn't have to tour. But so I would be like, I mostly play blues and rock,
Yeah.
And I did focus on that. And I always had a blues band or a rock band when I lived in Boston, and it kept me playing a lot. And then I when I moved out here, I got more into jazz. But like at Berkeley, I think a lot of our classes, we had a reading lab, chord lab. Like we would go to chord lab, and it would be all these progressions, and the teacher would say, "Oh, that's autumn leaves." It wouldn't be that. It was like, "Oh, that's I got rhythm."
Yeah.
Or which a lot of those chord progressions are the same, and they were probably like this. It wasn't copywritten, so they just the chord progressions are not copyright.
Sure.
Copyrighted, is that the right word? Copywritten. No, it's not copywritten, because it's copyright, like RIGHT.
Yeah.
But anyway, I hope if you're an English professor or
We're not going to get bad grades for that.
yeah. But anyway, we've got about 7 minutes, so we could either play another song, or we could play that one again. Whatever you think.
Yeah. It's up to you. I can go either way.
Wait, well, I also brought this. This one gets played a lot by the Jazz Depot, the St. James Infirmary, which is kind of a standard New Orleans. If you ever hang out in New Orleans, they usually play it at funerals when they're walking up the street. So it's public domain as well. The St. James Infirmary, kind of a D minor blues, but it kind of features Eric on bass, because the bass kind of has this descending bass line, ascending, descending, that kind of really sets it off. And again, I'm kind of more, trying to accent and play a different spot than he's playing. So we'll give it a try and see what we can come up with, and we'll go out on that. You ready? Two. So that is St. James Infirmary, which we'll have that. We did it in D minor. Sometimes I'll do it in E minor, just because guitar players, we like that E minor. There's a lot of open strings, you know. But D minor is a good key too. That would be the relative minor of F major. But you know, that as well as I'm just pretty much staying within that pentatonic scale. I guess it's a little different from a standard, like a 12-bar blues, because you know you have that walking line and stuff, you know. So it's a little different than just, you know, like say an Elvis song, you know, that's just straight 1-4-5. Cool. So thanks everybody for tuning in and watching our video. We will have the website up soon, and thanks to Eric for coming in and
thank you, Eddie, for having me.
this possible.
Yeah.
So we'll be back next week. I think next I'm supposed to have Joe Wright, one of my favorite tuba players. I don't know if I know a lot of tuba players, but Joe has really got a really professional musician, and I've done quite a few gigs with him as well. Thanks again for tuning in, and we're out of here.